It's the big story we've been tracking for you this week. A tribunal looking into sexual misconduct allegations against Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge continues today. Gender-based violence expert Lisa Vetten has just finished being cross-examined on the stand. Mbenenge is accused of sexually harassing High Court Secretary Andiswa Mengo. Let's take you there live now. And to Newzroom Afrika's Mnisi, who was tracking today's proceedings. Linda, good afternoon to you. Very interesting, just at the tail end of that evidence there, the questions around whether Lisa Vetten was unable perhaps to understand the nuances involved in either Zulu or Xhosa culture. That was a question put to her by the judge, Selby Mbenenge's legal attorney, Mnisi Sikhakhane. What did Lisa Vetten say to that?
Well, essentially, Michelle, the questions there related to the witness's testimony yesterday when she made reference to, some of the things that the judge, given his position in that particular court, should have done. And the argument by the lawyers for the respondent, that is Judge Mbenenge, are arguing that, there are certain nuances, cultural nuances that one would need to know of before making suggestions on how he should have acted, looking at, of course, one of the things that was said yesterday is that given that the judge is married first, there are certain things that he could then have done, but obviously then the issue of culture then came in that particular context. But the witness clearly saying that, well, whether or not there were cultural nuances involved there, that is not the conduct that should be exhibited in a workplace environment. It would be inappropriate to, behave in that particular way in a workplace environment. Let's take a listen to how she put it earlier on.
You also ventured into advice on something that I'm definitely sure you're not an expert on. You said you would have advised, or you would, if the JP was interested in the complainant, he should have approached it differently. You remember that? Mm. Is this an area you're an expert in? The area of courting in his culture or their culture? Is it something we should take your word on, that of suggesting to a Xhosa man how he should engage in courting? Is it something that we should take as your expertise?
No, and I'm not offering it to him. I'm not offering him advice in terms of his love life. My commentary was based on policy work in relation to sexual harassment and workplace relations. That was the context in which the advice was offered, and it has been, in some of the work that I've done on sexual harassment, we put that into policy. So this was in the context of talking about workplace relations, because you have, as I pointed out, a blurring going on here.
You are an advocate for women's issues, which is correct. In fact, you are an advocate. No one does it like you do in this country for 30 years. You are an advocate for complainants of sexual harassment. That I accept. But all I'm saying is that let me put this danger to you, because I put it to myself, that if I were to testify in matters where I must choose between African people and others, I would refuse because I have a particular affinity. And I would refuse because I would not resist the temptation of not being objective. And all I'm saying to you is that, well, with that background, which is not a bad background, do you agree with me that a person like you and me who have strong views about a particular side of things can actually sacrifice objectivity and present views that are filled with their own feelings and idiosyncrasies?
I would hope not, because as I said to you earlier, I sit on panels and I am required to adjudicate on matters, and there have been cases where I have not been, where looking at the evidence, you cannot find somebody guilty of sexual harassment. Yeah. There have also been occasions where I've been asked to comment on someone's behavior, and I've had to say, there is no sexual harassment. Yes. So I have an insight and experience, but that doesn't mean I automatically come to something assuming.
So the witness was also taken, Michelle, through some of the interpretations that she made of the conversation. These are WhatsApp conversations between the judge president as well as Junior Secretary Andiswa Mengo, and the interpretations thereof were some of the things that were put to her, but also looking at what the lawyers for the respondent call omissions, in that there are certain instances where she appears to be the one that is leading the conversation, having sexually charged conversations with the judge, and taking it back to the behavior that is exhibited by Andiswa Mengo during these conversations, saying that that person cannot be reconciled with what the witness described as a childlike person. And what they're arguing is that power is fluid and it can change as and when situations develop, and of course as conversations happen. But of course the witness indicating that there weren't omissions, and these are in line with the behavior that Andiswa Mengo exhibited. And she goes back to the issue around context. You'd recall that yesterday she pointed out certain patterns where she said, Andiswa Mengo employed during the interactions, like evasion, sometimes silence, sometimes postponing. And in some of the conversations, like for example, where she was asked about a particular sex position, and she indicated that she would go with whatever he wanted, surprise, indicating that surprise me, I will go with whatever you want. The lawyers for the respondent are saying, well, she's clearly expressing a stance of what she would like. She wants to be surprised by this particular individual, but the witness says that her indication is quite ambiguous, because she does not commit to what exactly she wants. And this goes back again to some of the things that she indicated yesterday, Michelle, about the patterns that are seen, where she highlights the patterns of Judge Mbenenge and the persistence and the unrelenting requests for nude photographs, for to be intimate with her. But of course, all of this needs to be taken into context, Michelle. They're also arguing that she is quite biased and is an advocate, as you may have heard in that particular part, that she's an advocate for complainants, which is something that she also had to comment on, saying that her background is based on complainants. So all of this needs to be taken into context, back into what is at the center of this and what this tribunal is trying to establish, the terms of reference being that did the judge's conduct amount to gross misconduct, which is essentially what they're trying to establish here. The WhatsApp texts are not in dispute, and that, of course, is some of the things that come through when this cross-examination happen. The interpretation is also one of the things that they lean closer to, and that is why they're arguing that she appears to be biased, and her opinion seems to be favoring the complainant more.
And her response to that was, of course, that she has sat on panels before and she has not found in favor of a complainant. She has determined in previous occasions that something did not qualify as sexual harassment. So she says she comes into each case with an open mind, not having made up her mind. So Linda, 1:45 is when the session resumes. Did I hear correctly that Mnisi Sikhakhane was saying to the panel that he wants to ensure that all of the witnesses he wants to call are in the building?
Well, at this particular point, Michelle, we have adjourned to allow for the lawyers for the complainant to deal with that application that they spoke about yesterday, and this is the application to cross-examine the witnesses that the respondent will call. They will open their case just after this adjournment, after that ruling, and depending on what that ruling says, we will likely see the cross-examination. But of course, they've indicated that they do indeed have witnesses, and there's still possibilities that we could see Judge Mbenenge take to the stand.